So what we're going to do again today is talk about incident management. And of course, most everybody out there is going to be a Remedy user. You guys already know how to create an incident and what you can do there. So what I thought I would concentrate on today was to talk about maybe some features that are available to you that perhaps, one, you're not aware that they're there, and of course that could be because they're new in 8 or 8.1, or they're there and you just haven't really taken the time to play with it and understand what kind of benefit or help they could be to you in the processing of incidents there. So I am running version 8.1, which is the latest version. I've logged into, went to applications. I logged into the incident console, so that's what I'm looking at there. The first thing I would point out to you, if your administrator has this configured, is you come into work. If you're on the front line of the help desk, you sit down, you kind of look at your queue of open incidents that maybe maybe just those assigned to you. You've got a number of filtering options up there as to what your view is going to look like. But notice also that you can click on your KPI button and get a very graphical but real-time view of incidents that were resolved. Or, what are all the open incidents? Let me see the list there. Or show me the backlog of ones that we've got out there that we haven't gotten to and kind of how we're doing on that, and a variety of different output metrics that you could go there. Or most importantly, how about by status and priority? What are my high-impact incidents I should be looking at? And, of course, notice as you hover over those, even though it's in the graph, it gives you more detail there. So the little KPI indicator is kind of a good way when you first get there to kind of think about, okay, what's the status of the help desk this morning? So if we go back over here to our console, let me draw your attention to, this is where you can also do things like set your application preferences for you as an individual logged on user. So, what do you want your landing page to be? What do you want your default filters to be? More importantly is if you also use the overview console, you'll notice here are all the modules across the top. If you're using that overview console, what do you want to actually show? Do you want tasks to actually show in your overview console, or only maybe work orders and incidents? So that's something to be aware of if you need to change that within the system there. Notice also that you can set up reminders. So reminders here, when I'm just in the main console, these are general reminders that you either have copied your cell phone, so they're a reminder to you, or perhaps that's where you had sent a reminder to another staff member of something you wanted to collaborate on or meet or whatever. But it's just a handy little way to kind of have a inbuilt sticky note, if you would, of things in general that you want to share with your other colleagues and all. So that's available for you. I'll show you another version of that when I actually open up an incident and where it gets kind of specific for that. The process overview has been around for a while, but in these later versions, we've actually moved it right here to the console. So if you have some relatively new staff and you want to kind of give them an idea of what's your internal process for using incident management and what are the steps you go through to select it, you can bring up this process. And, of course, this is modifiable if you have to change the way. This is the BMC out of the box, but if you've modified this, you do have the rights to modify what you're seeing here, and it can provide a good either reference or as a training guide that you might want to look at there. So that's another thing that you've got there. And then another option you've got over here that's new in version 8, so anybody prior to that wouldn't have this, but they've now given you the ability to select what columns you actually see in this grid view. So you can see here I can add columns, I can remove columns, set my refresh rate, and do some things like that. So make it a little bit more personalized, a little more direct towards the way you need to view your work queue based on what you're doing there. Notice also, if you are a service request management user, another new feature they've added is, the end user goes to service request management. They put in a request that, most often probably creates either an incident or a work order, occasionally a change request. But here is where an issue came in from service request management, and now it started to give you the reference of the service request ID, which is what the end user knows about. They don't really know about the incident number because they're inside the portal. They're tracking it by the request ID, so they now make that visible to the staff member in there as well. So let's open up one of our incidents and talk about some of the options you've got. And this is where, as I said, I kind of want to bring to your attention some things that are either new or have been there for a while, but maybe you haven't really taken advantage of them and kind of gone on through there. So if we look at this, let's first off start over here on some of the functions that you have, right? There are a lot of interesting little tools over here for your use. For example, you've got an assignment script here. Occasionally, normally we'll set some of these up, but what this does is by group assignment. So the networking group needs to follow these instructions. The network group needs to follow these instructions and make sure that you capture that data. So what it basically does is give you the work instructions or the detail of what they're asking you to capture depending on which group is involved in here. And again, that's probably not something the individual staff member does, but if that's something that could help your group as a whole, perhaps something that you could get to your admin about to configure some of these for you. You've also got the ability to do what's known as an initiator script. It's similar to what I just showed you, but this is where you would just say, in general, about incidents, we want to make sure we capture this information. And it's generic to the incident itself as opposed to the more specific things when we get down to the assignment group as far as what they are going to be, capturing there. You can also get into what's known as a decision tree, and this is where you're really guiding the help desk technician on exactly what to ask, and then based on the response from the end user, it brings up then what the next logical question would be, a typical decision tree. So is someone calling in, and this is just a sample, somebody calling in about their machine, their application, the networks, whatever. We'll say they're calling in about an application. So if I select that, then it brings up the next series of questions that a staff person might want to go through with the end user. Yeah, my problem is I can't get access this morning. And then again, it just continues to step that staff member through this as far as what they're trying to uncover in order to get to, and of course they should be documenting what the responses are and all to this, and you do that, that's where you just say report, and it captures all of those responses, and that can be made part of that record there. So that's something that can help you a little bit. If I scroll on down here, I want you to also notice if I hit on this more, I actually already have mine enabled there. This is where you also can just set up some reminders here, right, of things that you need to remind yourself to do. So I've got in here, be sure to copy the vendor on the proposed solution. Now, this one is specific to the incident that I have open, as opposed to when I was in the console, I just set up some little reminders in general for me and other staff members. This is, as it would relate to this particular incident, I want to have and be able to create a reminder. So you can see the subject is this incident number 107415. Here is my message number 2, my reminder number 2. I want to make a part of that. Save that off, and it goes in there. And actually, you just have to put in the recipient's name there. So that can be helpful to you. Again, I think it kind of replaces the sticky note type of situation. As you're working a particular incident, and this is not new, this has been around at least since 7604, but don't forget that we have incident matching. It has been improved somewhat in 8. In what it brings back. You don't have quite as many tabs you have to click on and all, but based on the categorization of that incident that I had open, which was an email-related problem, you'll notice that it kind of scans the universe of our remedy implementation here. So it's brought back some other incidents that had that as a primary tag in it. It's brought back some known errors that this is obviously assuming that you have knowledge. You have problem management installed and configured in your environment. Here are some problem investigations that are still going on. problem management consists of both problem investigation and problem known error resolutions there. So this kind of gives you a way to kind of go in, see if anybody else is having the issue. If they are, maybe you should, take my incident now. And as you know, for example, maybe I'll say, well, this looks to be the primary incident that came down. It's still open. So at this point, I could just link my incident to it, saying, hey, mine's a duplicate of this one. So when that one is resolved and closed, if I've marked mine as a duplicate, it'll take care of that one for me, and I can go on about my business there. So that's something that can be very handy for you if you're not there, as well as, this is Joe and he's got an email issue, but maybe you ought to kind of just take a peek at, what's Joe's history here. Joe seems to have a lot of tickets in the help desk, so maybe I want to go in and peruse all of his recent incidents and figure out, do we just have a user who perhaps needs a little bit more training, or kind of what's going on with Joe, or maybe I look at it and I say, 9/10 of these always come back to the PC this guy's got. Maybe somebody ought to consider a PC refresh for this individual. But again, it's just another investigative type of tool that you could leverage as you go through there. So as we continue to look at our incident form, of course, here's the user, and as you hover over that, it'll give you, if I wanted to bring up more details on the customer, where is he located, telephone numbers, that's there. You can see here that we used the template for this particular incident, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes. But we see that this particular incident was tied to a service, right? So if you have not only your physical assets, your computer systems, your network gear, your printers, your applications, and those things defined within your CMDB, but if, as we would encourage, you've also have your primary services defined as a CI in there, then we can start leveraging some of this relationship linkage. So new in 8 and 8.1, they actually added some buttons right here to the side of service that let you do things like let me explore the CI, the configuration item, email service, and kind of see what goes on there. Who are the people responsible for supporting the email system? What are any other relationships to the email system? General information about that I can have. I also then, in looking at that type of information, the second button there says, well, let me understand. We've got a problem with email. I wonder if there's a component that's causing this issue. Well, if I click on my CI Explorer, and you had this ability back in 7.6 and some of the others, but you had to go down to a separate tab, open up a separate screen, actually do a search on the name of the CI to go out and find it, whereas now they've just automatically linked it to that field on the incident. So you can see here as I'm looking at all the related infrastructure that supports my email service that we have out there. Now, of course, this assumes that you have populated your CMDB with all of these relationships, probably using our Atrium Discovery and Dependency Mapping product in order for you to be able to do this. But again, I think most people are trying to move towards the real advantage of a CMDB is this type of detailed information that you can get. So that's another option for you. So I can understand the service and who supports it. I can understand all the infrastructure that makes up that service. And then something new that's been added is called service context. Let me get a snapshot of what's going on in the past few days as it would relate to that. So again, show me all those services and CIs that we kind of just looked at over there, if you would. Show me if there have been, so there are all of the things that are involved in that particular one. Show me, have we had any changes made to the email system in the past few days? If so, it could be that one of those changes has now caused this new incident to be open. I would want to make that relationship if that were true so we can understand what went wrong. And then the same thing for incidents, the same thing for the outage records. So again, that's something new that was added in version 8 and a great new feature there. And you can see on the one below it, if I had a CI identified here, a particular server, or maybe the customer's PC, if that's what this call was about, I would have those same type of options available to me there. These are grayed out only because that particular field is blank there.